Hello, everyone. Welcome to the MeanGene Show here on iHeartRadio. Thursday, June 23rd, 2022, NBA Draft happening tonight in Brooklyn, New York. And I am joined by my co-host who's going to talk to me about this. And this is very important. You guys know what I'm talking about. Dustin Phifer, Ballys Sports Southeast, covers the Carolina Panthers and the Charlotte Hornets. Hornets should be making some big noise in this NBA Draft tonight. Dustin, what's going on, man?
Hey, man, what's going on, Gene? Glad to be on. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. I know we're going to get into the draft a little bit later, but, you know, we just really haven't had time to I haven't had time to pump my chest yet because, you know, the Golden State Warriors are the NBA champions here, and congratulations to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to them. They showed their championship grit. They showed what you talked about with your prediction. I almost went off the rails and went against them, but I'm glad I stuck with them. And man, just an impressive performance. It started with that Steph Curry performance in Boston, going for 43 points, and then they just showed once they saw that, they showed that championship grit, that championship DNA, and they were able to close out a Boston team who had an unbelievable year. But you could just see, with that being Boston's first time in the finals in a while with that team, you could see the championship experience show up for Golden State, and that's what got it done for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I predicted Golden State in 7. It went 6. Just an incredible series and just amazing. Hey, but real quick, before we circle back to the Golden State Warriors and the NBA championship, I want to say happy birthday to my mom. She passed away in 2010. She would have been 92 years old today. And I can honestly say that I owe my charm and personality to my dear mom.
Absolutely, I can say the same. And a happy birthday to your mom. And I know she's watching down. I know she'd be proud of everything you got going on. So it's a great day to tell her happy birthday and think about her all day. So absolutely. So she's probably producing the show from heaven today. So anyway, that's right, absolutely.
But Dustin, because I gathered my notes here because besides just saying congratulations to the Warriors, man, there's just so much that needs to be talked about. Number one, they win they win the NBA championship 4 games to 2 over Boston, and the incredible story about this is that that they didn't even qualify for the playoffs the previous 2 seasons, and I think the last time they were in the finals they lost to the Raptors. But Dustin, look at this stat here. Warriors have played in 6 NBA finals in the last 8 seasons, winning 4 of them. Are we looking at a dynasty, or is it's already a dynasty?
Yeah, I have to say that it is a dynasty. A lot of people will come back with the argument, well, they've won 4 titles in 8 years, so there's been a gap there. But like you said, 6 finals in 8 years. You win 4 championships like this. You have a couple of down years, but you still know how to bring it right back with your guys and bringing in extra guys. And we'll talk about the guys who stepped up for them. But I definitely see it as a dynasty. And Gene, let's talk about it. Like, that's 4 and 8 years, and I don't think they're slowing down yet. I think they got it. I think this window is open for a couple more years. So this thing is not just like, oh, this is capping off something that's kind of going to close the window. This is a 4 championship with them probably going into next season, if they get most of their guys back, as one of the favorites to win the championship again. Yeah,
amazing. And we talk about 4 and 8, or 6 and 8, 4 and 8, 4 winning. But and then I can't help but bring up Kevin Durant, and who knows what would have happened if the guy could have just been patient and hung on with the Warriors.
Yeah, it's really crazy to think about, Gene. I think if you ask that question to all the fans in the NBA, Klay Thompson was out a couple of years with all his injuries, and they were struggling, like you said, to miss the playoffs. And then you have this basically what we want to call a super team building in Brooklyn with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, a little bit of James Harden before he was out of there. So I think if you would have asked a lot of people who was going to win that championship first, would it be Golden State after Kevin Durant left, or would it be the Brooklyn Nets? I think a lot of people would have said the Brooklyn Nets. So to see what Golden State was able to do to rebound and still, keep their core together and add some pieces like an Andrew Wiggins, who we'll talk about, I thought was one of the biggest factors in the finals. You do that and you still able to win a championship. It's very impressive. And you're right. now there's a lot of turmoil in Brooklyn. We're talking about on draft day. We're sitting here talking about, does Kyrie Irving want to stay in Brooklyn? Is he going to play a lot? What games, what kind of availability is he going to have? And is he going to stick with Kevin Durant? So a lot of question marks going on while Golden State, like you said, is just sitting over there continuing to win championships.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about this is that all of this could have been avoided by Kevin Durant had he just stayed in Golden State. I mean, they would have, those years you mentioned, Klay Thompson being out, man, we wouldn't have even known Klay Thompson was out had Kevin Durant stayed there. And that team, things just happen for a reason, but man, I tell you, dynasty, who knows? They probably could have won, 6 NBA championships, but to a big credit to Coach Kerr, who is just, man, we talk about him a lot on this show, Dustin. We talk about how he's a disciple of Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich, and it doesn't look like he's slowing down. And yes, I do think they're going to reload. They're going to get those players signed and run it back.
Yeah, and talk about a legacy. There's a lot of legacy points that you could make with this Golden State team. Obviously, you have Steph Curry getting his Finals MVP, finally kind of getting that 4th championship, even cementing his legacy even more. Maybe that's a debate a lot of people are talking about. Is he a top 10 player of all time now? Different things like that. Like I said, you talk about Klay coming back from 2 years of injury to get this championship and what it means to him. I look at a guy like, I said it just a few minutes ago, Gene, Andrew Wiggins. To me, obviously Steph was the MVP, but to me, you always talk about a Draymond Green, a Klay Thompson, but Andrew Wiggins to me was the second most important important player on that Warriors team. The way he was scoring, the way he was rebounding, his defense, he has finally stepped up. And let's not forget, he was a number 1 overall pick, and he's never really lived all the way up to that hype. And now here he is, one of the most important factors on this team, and talking a big time extension to stay with the Warriors. So a lot of people really help their legacy. And you go back to a Steve Kerr. 5 championships as a player now and 4 as a coach. That's 9 total. And like you said, he's not done yet. So what a legacy he is building as a player and a coach with all the championships that he's racking up. In the end, he could have a combination of close to the most of all time the way he's going.
To be up there in the likes of Red Auerbach, Bill Russell, Phil Jackson, Popovich, man. He's getting it done on both ends, having played and now coaching and just great stuff. So now the Warriors are in the same conversation with the Celtics and the Lakers, having won the 3rd most NBA championships and the 3rd most NBA Finals appearances. But man, they had the parade earlier this week in San Francisco, which was well deserved. But some fan brought a real live goat to the parade. And Steph Curry said, "Whoa, wait a minute." I guess he took a picture with the fan, with the goat too. So crazy.
Yeah, these fans and what now, they were in Oakland, now Golden State, they're in San Francisco. So these fans were ready, talking about a championship come back. That parade had a ton of people there, and you could see Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Steph Curry. They were all having the time of their lives. And again, I think as an athlete, no matter how many you win, they're all special. But it, Gene, to be on top of the mountain like that, and then go, like you just said, 2 years without making the playoffs, and then to go right back to the top of the mountain, it almost makes it feel even more sweet to know you can climb back up and get there again. And man, it's special to watch. And I don't want to take anything away from, we've talked a lot about the Warriors, obviously, because they won the championship. But I don't want to take anything away from the season that the Boston Celtics have too. It's no shame to lose a series like this against one of the better teams in the league, a first-year head coach, Jason Tatum, who's turned into one of the best players in the game. So they've got a bright future ahead as well. So that's why, we're talking about draft day now and free agency next week. The NBA is going to always look different from year to year. A lot of big changes are going to come, players moving, and so it's going to be exciting to see what teams can try to reload to go at the Golden State Warriors next year.
Yeah, some teams have already, started to make waves here in this draft with a few trades and everything. And like I said, we're going to get into that draft conversation. But yeah, now I have to laugh when it comes to the Golden State Warriors because Dustin, back in the day, the Warriors were so bad. I mean, horrible. And me and you know how applying for press credentials, how that process work. You submit that stuff and the organization says, hey, okay, yeah, we want to cover you guys and this, that, and the other. Well, how about the Golden State Warriors was the only team that ever reached out to me and invited me to cover them. I mean, they were that bad. That's back in the day when they had a Donald Forrell and it was just bad. They were a bad team, and I remember that, and I'm like, okay, who is this calling me? What do the Warriors want? Well, they didn't have enough media covering them back in the day. I mean, it was just that bad. And to look at where they are now, and the wild west. We talking about the Warriors. We talking about the West is still loaded, and we still talking dynasty with this team. So, and incredible stuff. So we just wanted to definitely get our shout out there to the Warriors, and you're right, the Celtics. I know the Celtics are look. They overachieved, in my opinion. No one had them in the NBA Finals at the beginning of the year. Am I right?
No, I completely agree. Nobody had them in, and they even started that first month of the season, I think, playing just under 500 balls, sitting like 7th, 8th, 9th place before they shot up to the top 2 or 3 seeds. So what an impressive run. Like I said, a first-year head coach in Udoka, and just an impressive run for them. And like I said, they've got a lot of young talent, so they're going to be right there. When you have guys like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, they're going to be there for the future. But you're right, they overachieved. And just think about some of the teams that they knocked out. To take out, Miami in those conference finals. I mean, they really had a good run through those playoffs.
Oh yeah.
And then sweeping the 76ers with Embiid and James Harden. So it was a great run for them. And in reality, when you talk about the Wild West, the East was very strong this year.
Yeah, it was. It really was.
For a run for Boston to come through like that to go to the finals, it was super impressive. And they're itching now. Now that they've got that finals experience. Maybe we didn't expect it this year, Gene, but now next year they're going to go on with some pretty high expectations to make that deep run again.
Yeah, and didn't they knock off the defending champs too, the Milwaukee?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right.
You beat the best of the East, man. You went up against the top tier. It just doesn't get any better than that. So I can't wait to see what the Celtics are going to do. They're still tied there with the Lakers for the most NBA championships, 17 apiece. So that's going to be interesting. And let's go ahead and just switch it on over to the NBA draft. NBA draft tonight in Brooklyn, New York, Barclays Center. Never been to that place. I didn't make it over there when I was in New York a few months ago. I wanted to get over there. They didn't really have a home game at that time. But so that's the NBA world attention is going to be on Brooklyn tonight. And the draft, I can honestly say, and I will admit, there are a handful of players that I am familiar with. There are a ton of draft prospects tonight, and some folks will not hear their name called, and some will, and I guess everyone is going to be waiting to see. I think the Orlando Magic, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Houston Rockets have the top 3 picks. So, what are your thoughts on what might happen tonight, Dustin?
Yeah, definitely always an exciting night to be able to the NBA draft. And with the NBA, it's really just not only about not to take the spotlight of the guys coming in from out of college. Obviously, it's their night to get drafted by a team and start their career. But the NBA, like we say, Gene, it moves fast. You're talking the finals are over. We got the NBA draft, and then we got free agency next week. So not only are you going to see these young guys get drafted by teams, but you're going to see these trades players already in the league moving teams to try to reshape these rosters. So it's going to be a lot of big names being talked about being moved. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But you're right. Top 3 picks. You're looking at Orlando. You're looking at Oklahoma City, and you're looking at the Houston Rockets. And right now, from what I have read this morning, I saw some stuff from Woj. He's always throwing stuff out there. It looks like as of right now, and obviously, the draft can change, but it looks like number 1, the Magic are leaning towards taking Jabari Smith from Auburn, who's a big-time player. And then at number 2, Oklahoma City is looking at taking Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga. And then number 3, Houston's looking at taking Paolo Banchero from Duke. So really, those are really, if you have a top 3 pick, those are 3 players who can change your franchise. And really help get going in the right direction. And even if you throw Jaden Ivey in there at 4 and some other ones, it's really a top-loaded draft where those first 4 or 5 picks can have some game changers. And even getting down to the 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s, there's going to be some people that can help some rosters. So really going to be excited to watch the movement and see what happens tonight. But a lot of these guys that you just watched made a big run in the NCAA tournament, and now here they are coming to help some NBA teams out.
Yeah, and the NBA, like you said, man, they move so quick. They move, they like boom, 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 and because they really have to, because they only get a couple of months off. Even after this draft tonight, like you said, free agency is coming up, And then after that, these draft picks are going to be in Vegas for the summer league, so that goes on for a while to help with their development. I like how that system works there, Ben, because you get to see right away what the potential is going to be for these guys, and I really like that. And I don't know if I'm gonna get out there this time. Of all the times that I probably need to be in Vegas, I'm not going to be in Vegas. We're not going to be out there until August when we kick off our the MeanGene Show, the Sports Kings, and Mr. Picks, the Picks and Show. But I think it's a couple of weeks that they're out there in Vegas, man. What do you think about that?
I think you're exactly right. I think the summer league is one of the better things that any sports league puts on. I mean, you don't the NFL obviously it's more difficult to do that with the physicality, but you really only get the off-season mini camps and stuff like that where you get a glimpse just in practice of what these players that are drafted have been doing. But here in the summer league, and obviously, it's scaled back. It's for rookies. It's for people trying to make a roster. It's just to kind of get to know each other. But when you put it in Vegas and you put all 30 NBA teams out there and it's almost like a tournament style format now where they end up coming out with a champion. It really is one of the better events to watch as far as an off-season event goes. You really get to see, all these top guys, unless they're hurt or something like that, all these guys are out there. So you're talking about this number one pick tonight, just in a couple of weeks, is going to be in Vegas already showcasing his talent. So it is awesome to watch. And I'll tell you what, I haven't been out there to cover one. Maybe looking forward to doing that in the future. But with me covering the Hornets and stuff like that, I've had a lot of interaction with, the Hornets and the Summer League stuff. And I'll tell you what, the fans out there in Vegas love it. They sell out those venues for these games. It's a good chance to get an up-close look at some of this talent without having to be in a big arena or a big, big-time ticket market. So I really love what the NBA does there. And what better way, if you're going to get these guys to be the future of your league and the faces of your league, to really get them out there in front of the fans and show them off right away.
Absolutely. And I did have a chance to cover the Summer League when it was in Long Beach. It used to be in Long Beach, California. And I think the last time I actually covered one, Chris Bosh was actually playing. So that tells you how far that goes back. But no, I think Vegas is a hell of a venue to have it. And the fans out there, of course, you have to deal with the 115 degree weather during the NBA Summer League. But no, it's going to be fun. But just getting back to some of the reports out there as far as the Orlando Magic. Now, the Orlando Magic just really haven't made any noise in a long time. They just don't have a good roster. They made some big moves with the Chicago Bulls a couple of years. Well, was it last year, I think, and or the year before? And so how the NBA draft works, for those of you who don't know, they have a draft lottery which determines who's going to get the top picks there, and in this case it fell to the Orlando Magic with the 1 and Oklahoma City with the 2 and Houston with the 3. So, but I have to, and I see the reports too, Dustin, on Jabari Smith. But is he the right fit for the Orlando Magic?
It's a really tough question. Like I said, with those top 3 guys that I mentioned, I think either one of them have qualities to be the number 1 pick. But I do think Jabari Smith is the most complete player. I mean, he's 6'10". He has the handles. He can shoot it. Obviously, we're not comparing him to somebody like Kevin Durant, but that's the kind of body size that he has, even with a little more muscle. So a guy like that who's 6'10" and can handle the ball and do everything and shoot, that's a guy who's gonna help a team right away. And the same goes for the other 2 picks, Holmgren and Banchero. These 3 guys are big guys, almost like unicorns, who can shoot it, who can do it all. So it's going to be interesting to see. I really like the team that I like the most out of this top 3 is the Houston Rockets, because you got to think about it. They just had the number 2 pick last year, and they took Jalen Green, who had a really good rookie season. Now you get the number 3 pick. If you can get another top pick to pair with him and continue to build that roster, then you've really got your rebuild completely underway. So I like where Houston's sitting. But you're right. Orlando need to get it right with this number 1 pick. They've got some young talent. They took Jalen Suggs last year. They took Wagner. They had that trade with the Bulls that you mentioned to get Wendell Carter. So they've got some young talent. So maybe one of these young players can come in and be that superstar face of the team they need. And I think Jabari Smith would be the right pick to go at number 1.
Yeah, this guy's being compared to the likes of Kevin Durant, just with his size and shooting ability. which, you're talking about a future All-Star probably with that pick. Going back to the Houston Rockets, what you said now, yeah, and I like their selection, their draft selection there. But, man, they really surprised me with the trade with the Dallas Mavericks and letting Christian Wood go. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see that, but I would assume what they're trying to do is just free up some cap space. Get another young pick at number 3, and then you've got your 2 kind of cornerstones. If it is Banchero, to go with Jalen Green, and then you can use the cap space to maybe bring in somebody else as far as a veteran goes. But you're right, Christian Wood was really good for them.
Oh my goodness,
he was in the last year of his contract. Had a really good couple of years with him, and I really think he's going to help the Dallas Mavericks being able to play, a team that went to the Western Conference Finals. You put Christian Wood down there to catch some lobs from Luka. He can also step out and shoot it. I think it was a really good acquisition by Dallas.
By Dallas.
And I think it's really going to, that team was already close to the NBA Finals, and that's really going to help them make a push again next year.
Yeah. So, and we'll probably see some other interesting things going on tonight with the draft. But, that was huge. And, Houston, very young team, and who knows who they might pick tonight is going to decide where their future is going to go. But I want to talk about another player, and I know you're familiar with this player more than anyone, playing with the Blue Devils. And I didn't realize this kid was so big. But what can you tell us about Paolo Banchero?
Yeah, just an unbelievable talent. Another guy who's got that 6'9", but actually can handle it like a point guard. And he's got a lot of. He's really got that NBA body kind of already built. He probably needs to, continue to be in the gym and tighten it up with the muscles and stuff like that. But a guy who has that kind of size and strength to go along with the handles. He can take you off the dribble. He can post you up. He can shoot the 3. I watched him very closely at Duke, and that's why I said if he goes number 1, I'm not surprised. He's another one of those guys who can be a face of a franchise. And, I just think that he is going to come in right away. And that's why I say if Houston gets him at 3, I think it's a steal. And I'm just telling you, this kid, he can do it all. It's one of those things. Like you said with the offensive game, Gene, when you almost like Jabari Smith, I think his handles may even be a little better. When you've got that size and can take people off the dribble and step back and shoot it, really you're unguardable. So I really like what he brings to the NBA. He's got an NBA game right away. So he's going to come in and he's going to be that Rookie of the Year candidate right off the bat. And if he's playing next to somebody like Jalen Green, who was a number 2 pick last year in Houston, they may still be rebuilding, and the win still may take a little bit, but that's going to be an exciting team to watch.
An exciting team to watch, yeah. And this kid, a freshman, coming into the draft, a grown man, basically 6'10". They got him listed at 6'10", 250 pounds. I didn't realize he was that big. But, man, you're right. This could be, incredible for any of these teams. Could 1, 2, 3, and I say 1, 2, 3 because usually that kind of dictates how the draft is going to go. But how about with the 4th pick there, the Sacramento Kings? Now, of all these other teams, Houston, OKC, and Orlando, the Kings were not that far from getting into that play-in tournament, and Mike Brown now is going to be the head coach of that team. They brought in Sabonis. They have De'Aaron Fox. They got a lot of great players now. A championship, coach coming there, and with this 4th pick, man, they could be instantly in the playoffs.
Yeah, they could, and I'll tell you what, right now, Gene, you just said it. And the 4th pick is where the draft is really going to start and kind of go off the rails. Obviously, with those 3 guys we talked about with Smith, Holmgren, and Banchero, they're going to be some version of the top 3. But 4 is where, like you said, Sacramento can stay there and take a player that really helps them get right to the playoffs because they're close. Or I've heard that they're shopping that pick a lot to try to move it around, maybe bring in some more veterans and stuff like that. So this is where it could get wild. Some teams could move up to try to get that 4th pick. Sacramento could trade it to try to get, more established players, or they could sit there and take a guy. But I'm telling you what, if I'm them and I'm there and they stay at that pick, I'm taking Jaden Ivey from Purdue. He's a sophomore guard who was one of the best players in the country, as you saw. And talk about athleticism. This guy can fly. He can jump out of the gym. So, and he's a shooting guard. So if you put him next to somebody like a De'Aaron Fox, and then they also drafted Davion Murray last year from Baylor, then you're going to have your guard spots locked up for a while. And Jaden Ivey, I'll tell you what, Gene, He's not a point guard like John Morant, but the athleticism that compares to John Morant.
That's what I'm hearing.
Jumps out of the building, can do all this crazy stuff. So yeah, if the Kings stay there and they get a guard like that, and then obviously they traded for Sabonis down low, then you may have something, and they still have Harrison Barnes. You may have a team that can finally compete for a playoff spot.
Yeah, and I tell you, that is the one team, man. Ooh, make the right pick, and don't let any of those other guys fall to them that we mentioned. Well, we haven't even mentioned Chet Holmgren, who is another player that I don't see him going to Sacramento. I don't be it because they already have Sabonis there. But who knows? Bencaro and Jabari. Do not let Jabari Smith fall to the Sacramento Kings. I can tell you that right now. We know that's not going to happen. But and
listen, the Kings bringing in the new head coach again. I mean, they're hired Mike Brown from the Golden State Warriors staff. So obviously used to coach the Cavaliers and won a championship. So has got that experience and hopefully. What the Kings need, like you said, Gene, they're close. They have some talent.
Very
they
close.
Just need that. They need a good coach with some stability. And of course, that also, is on the ownership in the front office to kind of provide that stability and kind of stick with the coach. And hopefully Mike Brown can bring that to them in Sacramento.
And I can also see the one kid out of Kansas, the forward. I do not want to butcher his name, but is it Oche Abaje?
Abaje.
Okay, so this guy, he's a senior. You're talking about a senior in there. So, to get an experienced player coming out the draft, that's an advantage. And I could see this guy going to the Kings, because I think GMs look at that. Most of the guys, the majority of the guys in this draft are freshmen, or international or even sophomores. But, man, it's rare that you get a full senior that comes out of there, and Kansas having that winning the national championship, being coached by a coach like Bill Self, Abaje has to be a good prospect as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking at some of the mock drafts, and he's like you said, he's the only senior I see really in the top 14 of this draft. A guy who stayed there, paid his dues, and then paid off by winning a championship with Kansas. He brings some athleticism. He brings some shooting. So he's definitely going to be a guy to watch. And right now, this is a guy who, and maybe because he's that senior and got a couple more years and they're looking more at projects, he's the guy who I'm seeing stay around between 9 and 13. So I think any team, if they get him, right at 10 or right outside the top 10, you're looking at a pretty good guy who, if he's a senior, he's a guy who's going to come in and contribute right away. So you're right. Those are the kind of it's so crazy, Gene, how the NBA draft operates when you're talking about when teams are trying to build a team. Are they going to go for youth? Are they going to go for a project who they know will be good in a few years? Or are they going to try to go for somebody, like you said, a senior like Abaje who can come in and contribute right now? That's the most fascinating thing to the draft about me is, do you have the guts to go for that project who might take a couple of years but could turn into a superstar? Or do you go with that guy who maybe won't be a superstar, but every year in and year out will be a good glue guy and a good role player? So it's interesting to see what these teams do. And I'm telling you, it's just like the NFL draft. You're not going to hit on them all, but it's so tough to evaluate some of these guys when you've only watched them for 1 year in college.
Yeah, that's true. And speaking of 1 year in college, let's talk about another top pick who would definitely be in the top 5 selected, and that's Chet Holmgren, the freshman out of Gonzaga. 7-footer, 195 pounds, not the biggest guy on the court, but his defense and the fact that he can knock down threes, which is what the number 5 position seems to do a lot in the NBA. He's going to really help someone. What do you think about that, Dustin?
Yeah, he's a unicorn. I mean, he is just an unbelievable talent. A guy, like you said, to be that big, but to step out and have the shooting touch that he does. And even though, again, this kind of goes back to the Kevin Durant thing when he came out of college, that he, was very skinny and couldn't really lift a lot of weights. And how is that going to translate? And because he still had to work on his body, but it translated just fine because he
sure did.
And obviously we'll see what happens with Holmgren because he will be kind of banging down low more with these big guys. But if his body can hold up and he continues he doesn't have to, become this huge guy all of a sudden, but just as long as he keeps his body in shape and stays in shape and continues to gain strength, he's going to be unbelievable. And I've heard that Oklahoma City at number 2 is in love with him, and I've actually heard that he's in love with going to Oklahoma City, and I think that's a perfect spot for him.
I think so too.
It's not a big marketplace, kind of like Gonzaga's not a big marketplace in Washington, and he can just go there. They've got Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, who's a great point guard that can help get him the ball, so that would really help the growth of Oklahoma City as well. If they could add him in there. And let's not forget they drafted a guy named Josh Giddey last year who was putting up triple doubles for them as a rookie.
Yeah.
So you get that and Gilgeous-Alexander and Chet Holmgren, you got 3 really good starters right there to really grow your rebuild. But you're right. Holmgren is a guy who people are going to watch him and be like, man, look at this kid. He can do it all. Block shots, shoot it, dunk it, anything you name it, he can do it.
Yeah, and look, he's only 20 years old. And 195 is not that big for a 7-footer, but I know he's going to get beefed up because he's going to get beat around down, in the paint. But I think Oklahoma City is a perfect landing spot for this guy. And I think there's another big guy. Now this kid right here, 6'10", 293 pounds, out of was it Illinois? Is it Kofi? Coburn. This guy, whoo-wee. Now, 7-footer, 293. He almost weighs 100 more pounds than Chet Holmgren.
He is a load.
So, where do you think this guy might end up?
Yeah, he is a load, and he's one of those guys who, like you said, can bang with the best of them. He's got some good post moves down low, and he really knows how to operate in the paint. And he had a really good career at Illinois and was one of the best rebounders, best finishers around the rim. And he'll definitely help a team, and we'll see where he goes. But, the reason he's probably not looked at as high as some of these guys like Holmgren and other people is because he's more of just that traditional in the paint guy. He doesn't really step out and shoot it like those other guys do. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. But any guy that can come in and has that kind of body to be able to bang around, block shots, grab rebounds, can definitely help a team, even if it's in a bench role or whatever it may be. So he's a guy I looked at somebody's going to give a chance to where he can come in, and he's going to have to, like you said, use that size to his advantage to really show how physical he can be in the paint to make a difference. Yeah,
absolutely. So, all right, let's address the big monster in the room, or whatever you want to call it. The Charlotte Hornets have the 13th pick and the 15th pick. I mean, you guys are going to be making, back-to-back picks here almost. And the Hornets don't have a head coach, which has got to be somewhat of a disadvantage. It puts a lot of pressure on Michael Jordan now to get this right. So I know you there in Charlotte. You cover the Hornets. What's going on with the Hornets?
Whew, man, there's a lot going on, Gene. I'll tell you what, I don't know where to start. I'm sitting here. It is, 1:37 my time. We're about less than 7 hours from the draft, and the Charlotte Hornets do not have a head coach. And I keep texting with a group of my people who are, close and follow the Hornets, who do some local media here in Charlotte. And I'm saying to myself, Gene, there's no way that for the NBA draft on national TV on ESPN, the Charlotte Hornets are going to go on the air without a head coach. Right? That can't be a story where they're going to be sitting around talking about the Charlotte Hornets without a head coach when we're about to have 2 first-round picks. So it'll be interesting to see what plays out. Obviously, the Kenny Atkinson situation definitely played a toll on why they don't have a coach. He accepted the position during the NBA Finals. About 8 days went by, and then as soon as the finals ended, he decided to change his mind and say that he wanted to stay with Golden State. What happened in that scenario, I don't know. A lot of talk about him wanting to stay in Golden State, stay close to his family. Then also some chatter about maybe, the compensation he ended up seeing was not what he thought, or whatever it may be. To me, it's. And again, I don't know the full details, so this is just my opinion, but it's more of a bad look to me on Kenny Atkinson's part. If you're not sure about what the compensation is going to be, or you're not sure about what you're ready for, I would not go and accept the job. Now, maybe you want to be in talks with them, but if you actually go and accept it, where, people like Woj and everybody have reported that you have accepted the position, and then 8 days go by and you kind of say you don't want it anymore, to me, that's not a great look. So who knows what happened, but now it puts the Hornets in a bind. And Now they're going to their second finalist, which is Mike D'Antoni, which would be very interesting. Gene, I know you know a lot about him.
Oh, yeah.
And if he comes in and brings that offensive style with a guy like LaMelo Ball, who knows what the defense will look like, but they will be very entertaining. But what I will say, Gene, is I think Mike D'Antoni is going to be the guy, but I don't know if you've heard this morning. There's one other name that has floated to the top with Mike D'Antoni that really almost knocked me off the couch this morning, and that is that Steve Clifford has emerged as a guy to come back and have a second run as the Hornets head coach. If people don't know, he coached the Bobcats / Hornets back in the day, led them to a couple of playoff series against LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, and had guys like Kemba Walker, Al Jefferson, those guys who were leading to the playoffs. So he had a good stint here. Then went down to Orlando, was the head coach for a couple of years, but his name has popped back up again. So very interesting to see what happens there. I still think D'Antoni is going to be the guy. I think he can bring that experience, and he can help get, you've watched a lot of Hornets games. They're already explosive and, have a lot of talent and fun to watch. So you add his offensive skill set in there, and I think it really will make a fun team to watch. So that's kind of what I'm seeing for the head coach so far.
Well, you know what? I think, the Atkinson snub, I think it might work out in Charlotte's favor because, you mentioned Clifford, D'Antoni, and, hey, there's another one out there that just walked away from a playoff team in Quinn Snyder. So I think Michael Jordan and his group have this just might work out in their favor. I don't think you can go wrong with any of those guys that you mentioned. Clifford, bringing Clifford back, who has some familiarity, and D'Antoni, who's playoff caliber coach there, and then I just threw in Quinn Snyder because he didn't say he wouldn't coach again, and right now,
and you're exactly right. Quinn Snyder will be my number one choice. I think what he did with Utah, he coached, he went to Duke, coached at Duke right here in North Carolina. I really thought they would try to go after him. I'm not sure if he's trying to take a year off like he said he hadn't said. But he would be my number one choice, and if not, I'd probably go with D'Antoni number two. Everybody, is going to say, oh, well, D'Antoni never won championships with Phoenix or Houston with all those rosters, but we got to be clear about the NBA. There's different levels to teams, and right now the Hornets are looking just to be a consistent playoff team that can win a series here or there. They're not on the championship level just yet, and Mike D'Antoni or Clifford could be guys that bring that playoff experience. Terry Stotts has also been another name.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about
there
Stotts.
Who had playoff experience in Portland. So I think you're right. I wasn't huge on the Atkinson hire. I know that some people do like him, but I think you're right. Any of these other guys they choose, if they could get him in here to help with this process, because like you said, it's moving fast. They need to make a decision, but I think any of those guys can help out. Yeah,
they really need to make a decision quick. So, all right, looking at the picks there, the 13th and the 15th picks. So, what are you hearing out of Charlotte as far as what they might do or which direction they might go?
So what I'm hearing is that they don't want to make both picks, and I completely agree with that sentiment. They had two first rounders last year. They took James Bouknight from Connecticut, who should have a nice role off the bench this season, and they took Kai Jones, the power forward center from Texas last year. Those were two first round picks who they're very high on, but actually didn't play a lot last year because of the deep rotation that they had. So you already had two first round picks from a year ago that didn't get a ton of playing time. Adding two more first round picks, I don't think really is going to help right now. And that's why they fired James Borrego. They're trying to take this next step to be that consistent playoff team. So I don't think bringing two more rookies in is really going to help that. So I kind of look for them to move one pick. Whether that's in a package like I've heard them maybe moving the 13th or 15th pick with Gordon Hayward to kind of get rid of that contract. I've also heard them maybe trading 13 or 15 to Indiana with somebody to bring back Miles Turner to help the big man situation. There is a lot of rumors going on with the Hornets right now. So they are going to be one of the teams that are making the most moves. Plus, they have to make a huge offer to Miles Bridges to keep him here long term. So a lot of stuff going on. I would expect them tonight, Gene, to maybe make one of the two picks. And we talked a lot about big guys. The big guy that I want in the draft, if he's there at that pick, is Mark Williams from Duke. We're talking about a 7'2" guy who's got a 7'7" wingspan, can block shots, can dunk, can rebound. Was really a big part of that Duke run they made last year. So if they could add him to the big man stable, also while trying to trade a pick and bring in some more veteran and free up some contract space, I think that's what Charlotte's going to do. But they've got a lot of decisions to make this offseason, which makes it, like you said, a whirlwind right now. You got to pay Miles Bridges. You want to upgrade the roster. You probably want to get rid of Hayward's contract because he's been good, but he, of course, cannot stay healthy. So a lot of decisions to make. Mitch Kupchak just signed a 2-year extension as the GM, so he's going to have his hands full making these picks and trying to make this roster better because, listen, they won 43 games last year, Gene, and yes, it was only good for a play-in spot, but that's the most they've won in a long time, and they still fired their coach. So that tells you they're ready with LaMelo Ball. They want to see a jump. So they're not going to be just sitting on there trying to draft projects and trying to see what happens in a couple of years. They're ready to make some moves to try to get something to have this team winning next year.
Yeah, because they're right there with the Sacramento Kings, man. Both of those teams right there were in that 9th and 10th spot there for a long time, and then late in the season they both fizzled out and lost more than they needed to lose. But Charlotte is right there, and I know you mentioned the one Williams, the kid out of Duke, but the one I was looking at was what's his name, Griffin? I think it's
AJ Griffin.
The forward out of Duke, which I think they couldn't go wrong with picking him either.
Yeah, I think he definitely be a good pick as well, and he's one of those guys that's perfect for the NBA right now. What they call that 3-and-D guy, can come in, can knock down the three ball, can play defense. So he's really going to help a team right away. And anytime you can be a knockdown shooter like that and provide length and defense on the wing position, you're going to be coveted. So that's another spot to look out for. So we'll see what happens. I really hope that they, really what I think they need to do is they need to sign Miles Bridges, obviously, because him and Melo are just that perfect tandem. And then again, if they can get off of Hayward's contract to free up some space, that would be great. And they've been talking about it for 2 years of how they really like Miles Turner. If they could trade for him, because really, to me, Gina, you can tell me what you think, that's what the Hornets have been missing the last year or two, is really that big man inside who can be a shot blocker, who can catch lobs, who can score inside, to really kind of be that difference maker in the paint. They've got LaMelo, they've got Rozier, they've got Miles Bridges, they've got these wings who can play good ball, but they need that physicality in the middle. So I know they're trying to upgrade that big man spot.
Yeah, they do. And the disadvantage to the draft is that some of these kids, are very young there. You got a lot of 18, 19-year-olds who, that's what we talked about the summer league earlier, get them in there. These guys are going to get better. They're going to be better because everything is there to make them better. But, if you're the Hornets and of course, like the Sacramento Kings, man, this draft is so important. At least the Hornets got 2 picks there, to get this right. And but man, you're talking about instant playoffs. They were right there last year. I think I think having 2 picks there like that is going to be great. How did you guys get the 2 picks there in the first round anyway?
So the funny way it worked out is, so obviously we had our pick at 13. But what happened was when we did a sign and trade this offseason for Devontae Graham to go to New Orleans Pelicans, they sent us back a first round pick that was, like top lottery protected, top 15 protected. But what happened was they traded for CJ McCollum and went on a run, and then ended up making that play-in spot.
That's
making the
right.
Playoffs, and that pushed their pick far enough out to make it go to Charlotte this year to give them 2 picks.
Well, you guys need to send CJ McCollum, a gift basket or something.
Absolutely. and like we talked about, obviously the picks are good to have for players, but really what it does, it just gives you a lot of leverage to do multiple things.
Yeah.
You can draft young guys to help your team, make some trades around the league. A lot of people are looking to make trades. Gene, I know we're talking long about it, but one rumor that has been talked about actually is a Russell Westbrook trade to Charlotte. And the only reason that trade would happen is really not to bring in Russell Westbrook, obviously, because you got LaMelo Ball, but it's because Russell Westbrook makes $45 million in the last year of his contract. So if you got that contract and you had to deal with Russell for a year, but then you get rid of him, you clear up $45 million in cap space. So that's another one that's thrown out there. The Lakers, your Lakers, Gene, are trying to do everything they can to get rid of Russell Westbrook. So.
I know. And the Lakers, unfortunately, we don't even have a horse in this race tonight.
No.
We're still suffering from the the big Davis trade there with the New Orleans Pelicans. So Lakers fans do not. I don't even know if Laker fans are going to watch the draft tonight. First of all, because there's nothing there. Maybe in the second round. But anyway, it's going to be exciting, though. It's going to be exciting. I've never been to an NBA draft, which we have to get there, Dustin. We have to put that on the old bucket list there. But it's going to be exciting, and of course, don't be surprised if some major trades go down or right before free agency week. And you're right, man. Everyone's looking at this Kyrie Irving situation, and of course, today it was rumored that the Lakers might be interested. So who knows? And that could only happen if a Westbrook, would be traded somewhere. So that's going to be interesting to see, Dustin. But man,
it's really interesting when it comes to the NBA, Gene, because they kind of do it different than everybody else. It's weird to have, and I kind of wish they maybe change this in the future, but it's always weird to have the NBA draft before free agency. In the NFL, you've got the free agency, you sign who you need, but then and once you've signed your free agents, you know what you need in the draft. You're drafting before you even sign your free agent, so you've really got a lot of juggling there to do to determine, who you could possibly sign after the draft. So it's kind of weird how they do that. And I think that's something maybe they should look at changing in the future.
And the fact that they have to do it so quickly, you don't have a whole lot of time. You have the draft lottery, you have the draft, then you have free agency, and it's all in a matter of 4 weeks that all of this is going to take place. Then you jump into summer league and everything. So you're right, Dustin. That's something that they need to look at, and they are looking at a lot of things, including possibly getting an NBA team in Las Vegas, and one perhaps returning to the great state of Washington and Seattle, which I think would be marvelous for those people up there.
No, it definitely would, and I think that's coming soon. And getting that back there, for them, get them a team back in Seattle, and then I think even a team's probably going to come to Vegas. And how about LeBron James saying he'd love to own that team in Vegas when he's done? So, it's definitely, you want to expand as best as possible. I think the way the NFL does it, carrying the draft around the different cities is amazing, and I think that's kind of what the NBA should do. And then also, if you get a team back in Seattle, man, those fans are just so avid up there.
I know.
It would be amazing for them to finally get their team back.
Yeah, it would be. And I had a chance. My first ever NBA game, I saw it in Seattle, Washington. I think I was 18 years old, and it was the Supersonics and New York Knicks. Bernard King played in that game. We're going way back now. And some listeners out there are like, who the hell is Bernard King? Who? But no,
I remember him. What a player he was.
I know, but yeah, and in Seattle, it's a great place for sports. They got the Mariners up there, they got the Seahawks, but man, I know they want an NBA team back. Well, Dustin, I think that's going to wrap things up for us. Big action tonight there with the NBA draft, and how about this? A little MLB conversation here. The Dodgers and the Braves are playing this weekend, so I think we might have some text messaging going back and forth there.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be talking. I'm actually watching the Braves play the Giants right now. We're helping y'all out by winning 7-2 against the Giants.
Thank you very much.
But yes, tomorrow night, we're talking about an NLCS rematch. We're talking about Freddie Freeman's first game back in Atlanta. Man, I can't wait to see the ovation he gets. He deserves to get a standing ovation for everything he did for Atlanta. And anytime these teams play, even if it's in the regular season, it feels like a playoff matchup. So the Braves have finally got on fire, and the Dodgers are playing well. So it should be a fun series. And yes, you can best believe if the Braves are doing what they're supposed to do on these series.
Yeah, I got to make sure my ringer is off if it's not going my way. But hey, and what else is going on? I know next month, man, and time is just moving by so fast. MLB is almost at the mid-season break there. The All-Star game is going to be at Dodger Stadium. The whole world gets to go to L.A. I won't be able to get out there because we just got so much going on. Believe me, I want to be out there for it. But yeah, that's happening next month. And I know we don't talk a lot of NHL. And I had a conversation with my neighbor yesterday. But some of the scoring in the Stanley Cup has just been crazy. Seven goals in an NHL game is like a blowout in any other sport. Am I correct?
No, absolutely. Game 2 was 7-0. It's been an unbelievable series. And then last night you have the Lightning try to tie it up 2-2, and you have kind of this goal in overtime. It looks like the Avalanche have too many men on the ice, but the refs don't see it, and the goal stands. And so now you got the Avalanche one win away from winning the World Series, from winning the Stanley Cup and heading back home. And that'd be pretty unbelievable for the Colorado to knock off the 2-time defending champs.
Yes, it would be. But that team, man, they are scoring goals like crazy. I've never seen it.
Yes.
And just interesting stuff, though. But, so I've been keeping an eye on that.
You talk about time flying by. Can you believe that we're really only about a month away from training camp in the NFL?
Yes, we are. And training camp will take place. And Baker Mayfield, as far as I know, is still a Cleveland Brown and might actually play for the Cleveland Browns this year. Who knows with the Deshaun Watson pending suspension, there's a reason why the Browns haven't really made a move with Baker.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see because the Panthers are a team who's still on the lookout for him. I think the Panthers would like to have Baker Mayfield, but they're definitely not going to pay that salary. So it's just a matter of who's going to balk first between Cleveland and Carolina, and even Seattle said they're still interested in him as well. But you're right. I'm leaning more and more to the fact of all this Deshaun Watson stuff, Gene, that it's possible he may be suspended for a whole year.
I think, I mean, we don't know, and that could be, Cleveland took a gamble there, and I think it's probably smart to try to hold on to Baker because you don't know what's going to happen. And since we're talking NFL, and I hate to end the show on such a bad note there, but Tony Siragusa passed away yesterday, former Baltimore Ravens. He was a Fox analyst there for almost 12, 13 years there. They used to put him in the end zone, and he would just talk a lot of trash there. But man, 55 years old, passed away in his sleep, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the Ravens organization, the NFL, and definitely Tony Siragusa's family.
No, absolutely. You talk about one of the guys. Think about back to those Ravens defenses when they were considered some of the best defenses of all time. He was a part of that with that Ray Lewis and Ed Reed dynasty, and clogging up the middle so Ray Lewis could make some plays. So what a playing career he had. And you're right, he transitioned seamlessly to an analyst role, and it was always fun seeing him break it down from the end zone. They even had it on TV down there for him, and he had a great career on and off the field, and it's always, sad to see him at such a young age at 55. So definitely thoughts and prayers go out to his family.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, Dustin, that's going to wrap things up here for the MeanGene Show. And as we stated, folks, enjoy the draft tonight. And, of course, get ready for Summer League there and NBA free agency. All that stuff is coming up. And, Dustin, we'll come back and do it again here, man, like we always do.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to the draft tonight, and then it'll be interesting to see where these players are moving around for free agency next week.
All right, folks. We'll see you soon here on the MeanGene Show right here on iHeartRadio.